Just checking my phone to check it's coming through okay. Okay, so we're all live in the group now. So that's all good. Um, just wanted to say thanks to everyone who joins in today and watches us. Today I have Tammy Robinson who's joining me. So Tammy is a contemporary author from the Bay of Plenty in New Zealand. After years spent working her way around the world, Tammy settled back in New Zealand where she met her husband. They now have three children and live on a farm. She published her first six novels through Amazon before she was signed to Hatchet, who published Differently Normal and Photos of You with several worldwide translations. Photos of You has been optioned for film by LA production company MRC Film to be produced by Elizabeth Cantillon. And Tammy's ninth book, Back to You, will be published, or has it just been published? Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yes.
it's yeah, yesterday it's just been published. So thanks so much, Tammy, for joining us. I just wanted to mention as well, I've just finished reading Photos of You and really, really loved it. It is quite a sad read, but yeah, it's still a really good read, so I would recommend people that. Yeah, so thanks for joining us. Is there anything more you'd like to tell us about yourself or maybe about your latest book?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me and inviting me along. Yeah, no, you pretty much covered it. So I just want to say Back to You came out yesterday. It should be in your shops near you in New Zealand and Australia, but if it's not, then they can order it. But yeah, no, this is my ninth, so it's pretty exciting. Always exciting and always nervous when they come out, but yeah, no, I'm happy it's out there now finally.
Yeah. And can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about Back to You?
Yeah, so Back to You is a story of Zoe and Finn. And they should I read you the blurb or just tell you about it?
Whatever you want to do.
Um, so it's about Zoe and Finn, and they meet on New Year's Eve. Her friend sort of dares her to do something spontaneous, and so she grabs Finn and she kisses him, and then they sort of get to know each other over the following few hours that night, and then they have this amazing few days together. But he's actually heading off overseas. His sister had a mental health illness and depression, and she died, and so he's heading off to Africa to do a tour to Africa bike ride to raise funds for like the mental health foundation. So they agree to stay in touch and catch up when he's back, but while he's away, just before he's due to come back, Zoe's in an accident and suffers
Oh.
a life-changing injury.
Mm.
So she goes from being this independent career woman, she's a teacher, to in the city, to moving back to this small town hours away, to her estranged father's, and feeling completely dependent again on him and feeling like she's just gone back in time. And it's just a big culture shock for her. And so she actually she cuts Finn off because she doesn't think that there's any future for them now, or she doesn't think that he could love her maybe how she is. And yeah, so it's about Finn trying to track her down, and it's also about Zoe coming to terms with what's happened and mending that relationship with her father. And yeah,
Mm.
goes her. So
Yeah, sounds good. And Photos of You, for people who haven't heard about it before, it is about someone well, Ava, who has cancer and meets someone. Um, how did you think of the story behind that? Because it's quite a moving.
thank you. Yeah, so photos. So when I got signed to Hachette or Piatkis in the UK,
Mm,
they signed me to a 2-book deal, and the first book was already written. It was Differently Normal.
okay.
So that was already there, and that just needed to be edited and everything. But they wanted to do a 2-book deal, so they wanted me to come up with an idea for a second book. And I was chatting. I saw an article online actually. I think my agent might have sent it to me, Vicky, and it was about this beautiful young Japanese woman with a terminal illness, and she just wanted to have this glamorous photo shoot. So it was
Mm,
dressed up in all these gorgeous frocks and wedding dresses and having this beautiful photo shoot. And it just kind of sparked the idea of, what people, the different things that people want to do when they are faced with like a terminal illness. Like it's not always these grand bucket list gestures,
mm,
skydiving, or it's not always these big things. Sometimes it can be something quite sort of meaningful and small to people. So so I came up with the idea of Ava, and she, on her 28th birthday, she had it when she was 23, 24, and she's been in remission, close to sort of getting the all clear. And then on her 28th birthday, she gets told that it's back and it's incurable. And so she's always wanted to have this wedding. She's not with anyone, but she just decides, instead of having a funeral after she's gone, she's going to have this big celebration while she's alive of her life, and sort of have it like a wedding. So she'll dress up and do all the glamorous stuff, and have all her friends and family there, and that's what she wants to do. And then the magazine gets involved, and through that she meets the photographer James and finds out that it's never too late to find love.
And how do you find writing such traumatic things? Like, how are your emotions when you're writing them?
I lost my mum. We had a lot of troubles trying to have our children. We had 5 miscarriages, and then around the same time, I lost a close friend, Catherine, to bowel cancer. She was 38, and then a few months after that, not long after that, when my daughter was only 5 months, my mum passed very suddenly, and she was only 58, and her heart just stopped. She collapsed, and so it was kind of a really, really traumatic. And that's when I first started self-publishing, because I thought, now or never, anything. But so I kind of channel those emotions when I have to do something like this. You can read about other people's experiences faced with their own mortality and all that, but I also do a lot of imagining myself into that position, so sort of putting myself in there and thinking what I would want to do, or how I would feel, or saying goodbye to my loved ones, and so a lot of it is just putting myself in those shoes, and then it can be very draining. But at the end of the day, that I think that helps get that emotion into the book, and so it's worth it. But
yeah. And could you tell us a little bit about whether you'd always wanted to be a writer, and how you became to first start writing? Well, you actually said how you first started, but if you had thought you'd always be a writer.
Yeah, absolutely, always. It was kind of not really a question of if, it was all sort of more when. It was like, that was always like a life plan, was to be the author and to have my books in a shop. And then when I was in my early 20s, I traveled a lot and worked overseas on cruise ships and for Club Med and stuff. And then it was when I came home and met Carl, and we finally had our first daughter, Holly. Actually, I wrote it before Holly was born, but that was when I first thought, no, I'm going to try and write this. I had my first book, Charlie and Pearl, came to me in a dream. So I had a dream about a girl falling asleep in a bookshop and a guy finding her and falling in love with her. So I had this really vivid dream, and from there I came up with this book, and that was probably my easiest book to write. And I wrote it every day after work and on weekends, and I think it only took about 4 months. But then I sort of sent it off to the 3 or 4 big publishers in New Zealand and got these nice little rejections back, and then it kind of went in a drawer until Mum died. And then that's when I realised, no, if you want something, you got to do, you got to do it yourself. You got to do it yourself. So I tidied it up, and my husband was a graphic designer, so he created the cover and everything, and I got friends to do all the editing, and then because we were pretty poor with a little young family, and so so I self-published, and then I wrote the other 5 after, I think, over about 3 years. I was doing sort of 2 a year, but the whole time I didn't really give up my dream, but I wasn't really submitting either, because I didn't really know how to go about doing that overseas. It wasn't as easy then as it is now. You used to have to print off 3 chapters and send it and with a self-addressed envelope, that sort of thing. And to do that to the UK or somewhere would be just costly and out of our reach. So I didn't really do it then. And then I think it was about 2016, I heard about an agent who represented New Zealand and US.
Okay.
And she was representing a couple of authors I knew in New Zealand. So I approached her, and she loved my writing. She didn't take me on straight away. She sort of kept me in mind because she was heading to the UK for the book buying sort of period of 4 months. And then while she was there, she got some interest. So she signed me, and it went from there.
Oh, that's great. And
I always wanted to be a writer.
Yeah. And you said photos of you's been optionated for a movie. Could you tell us a little bit about that, how that came about, and maybe where it's at the moment?
Yeah, so what are we now, 2021? I think it was about 2019, Vicky, my agent, told me that she'd secured like a film agent. She'd said a film agent at CAA in America, which is a pretty big sort of agency. And she loved it, so she was going to try and shop that around. And then a few months later, Vicky called me and she said, "Are you sitting down?" And it was like, oh, this could be big. And so they'd had an offer from MRC for the option rights. So what they do is they buy the option rights for a period of time, and then when that expires, they've got a first option to buy them again for the same period, so 18 months in this case, for the same amount for another period. And then at the end of that, they can either do it again or decide, no, then maybe nothing's going to happen. So a lot of books get optioned, but not necessarily it doesn't necessarily go any further. So they bought the option rights, but it took about 8 months of negotiating back and forth between 3 sets of lawyers. And it was torturous. And I was always worried that at any moment it might fall over or something. But it got signed last year, and then I still wasn't allowed to tell anyone, and it was horrible because I'm not a patient person. And of course, I just wanted to tell everybody, but I couldn't. So I've known since like October 2019, and I've only just been able to announce it when they announced it about a month ago.
Okay.
So I had a video call with a Zoom conference with Elizabeth Cantillion August last year, and so she's produced the James Bond movies, some of the James Bond movies, the last Charlie Angels reboot, like a lot of big films. And so she's this glamorous, gorgeous LA woman, and I was sitting in my little Oklahoma townhouse, farmhouse, feeling like a real imposter. But she was lovely, and so we talked, and she told me that the script, so a guy called Tom Dean was working on the script, and that nothing happens until the script is done, and that could take up to 6 months. And then when that's done, the fun stuff starts, she said, which is like, getting financing and casting and all that sort of stuff. So the fact that they've just announced it, I believe, means that the script is finished. And so, so they'll be working over there doing whatever they're doing, but they don't have to tell me. I'm sort of out of the loop, but,
Yeah. So do you know if you will have any involvement?
No, definitely nothing in the script or anything like that. I get an executive producer credit fee, credit as well. Like, so on the screen it'll say executive producer Tammy Robinson, which I think just meant that they could contact me at any point if they wanted to. But I haven't been. And so and they'll fly me to the premiere, wherever that is in the world. So
yeah, that must be very exciting.
Oh yeah.
And then when you actually get to see it as well.
That'll be, I think that's going to be super emotional, really, seeing it on the screen, knowing that that's something I created.
Yeah. And could you tell me, when you were growing up, did you have anyone who encouraged you to be a writer?
Well, my mum and dad were always super supportive, and my mum and dad both, and my brother and sister as well, they kind of just always believed it would happen. And like my dad now, he's so proud, and he just keeps saying, "Oh, the snowball's getting bigger, it's momentum, you can't stop it now, it's just going to get bigger and bigger." So he's really lovely. And they're all, and my sister, I've got a twin sister, they've always just all sort of, I think, believed that it would happen because they knew how much I wanted it. Things were just starting to, my mum was super proud of my first book. I wish she could see all this, but I come from a family of storytellers. My dad is a storyteller, my granddad was a storyteller, make up a lot of stuff, so
And we've got quite a few people watching, so just reminding the people watching, if you've got any questions for Tammy, please write them in comments. So I'm just wondering if you're working on something new at the moment.
I am. So my 10th book, which seems sort of quite significant. So Back to You is again the first book in a 2-book deal. I'm actually having a Zoom call after this at 9:00 with my editor in the UK.
Okay.
To discuss my latest one. So I have started something. I haven't got a title for it yet, which is unusual. I normally come up with a title pretty quick, but I haven't yet. And again, it's another sort of heartbreaker, but hopefully uplifting as well. And I'm working on that, but I'll just talk about that with her tonight because I have got 2 ideas, so I'll discuss. Okay,
so you're still just in the early stages.
Yeah. I kind of started both, and then are you there?
Yeah, I can see you. You must have
sorry,
lost.
I just had like an Adobe Flash Player update thing come up. Oh gosh, Carl, what's happening? I can see me, but I can't see you. Are you still?
Yeah, I can still see you fine.
Okay, well, I'll just keep talking then. I can't see you anymore.
Okay.
Oh, there you are. Sorry.
I'm back.
Computer. Technology. Yeah. So I'll talk about that tonight with her and Vicky Maid, and then we'll go from there, I guess, with which one the idea they're happy with, and yeah. But it's to be published this time next year.
Okay. So are you finding you have like a new book every year?
Yeah. Well, when I was self-publishing, it was 2 a year. There's obviously a longer process when it goes through as many edits as it does with them, and then they obviously pick the best time for publication, and there's cover designs. And because I'm published by Piatkus in the UK, but also Hachette here in New Zealand, so there's more than one, they go through these covers together, and so there's a few liaising to talk about what's better and stuff like that. So yeah, it'll be 1 a year at this stage. I'm hoping to bump that up again to 2, because I love writing, and so
And is it your full-time job now?
Yeah, so I've been at home since I had my first daughter, Holly.
Okay.
Yeah, and then so she's 8, and then I've got Willow who's 6 and Leo who's 4. So he starts school at the end of this year, which is but I'm not coping with that. But even when he starts school, I'll do this. Keep doing this, and then I don't know if that ever needs to change. It'll change. But for now, my husband's working on a farm. We live on the farm, so yeah. No, it's my full-time job.
No, that's good. And when you start with a new idea for a book, what's usually the first part that you start with?
Yeah, it can be anything. Honestly, some books it's been a character, some it's been a scene, and some it's been like a theme or something like that. But it can be anything, and then I sort of just build it from there. I think I like it when it's character, when I've got like a main character already. Like with Differently Normal, I had Maddie, this young carer who cares for her sister B, who's got autism. So I had Maddie, this young carer, and so then I just build the rest of the story around her, and photos of you. Again, it was Ava. So yeah, I think usually it's a character, but sometimes it's something that happens to that character, an injury or an illness or something
And did you just do you know the ending when you start, or do you just go with the flow?
I try to now. I think when I was self-publishing, not so much.
Okay.
I really used to just start and then see what would happen. But no, I try now to be a little bit more of a planner and have an idea of where the book's going to go, because otherwise, there's that worry that it may not work, although it's worked for me up till now. I just find that whole middle part the hardest part to plan. I can't really plan. I've tried. I've got notebooks and I've got books about it, but it doesn't really work for me. I'm a pantster, so I have a start and I have a finish, and then I just got to work through all that stuff in the middle. But I usually have a rough idea how it's going to finish.
Yeah, and I'm quite interested to know, like, this cover's very different from the one you showed. Is this the UK?
The UK cover.
This is the UK.
Yeah, so this is the New Zealand one.
Okay.
And then, that's the UK one.
Yeah, because it's quite a lot. Like, yours is more like a photo, isn't it? And then this one's
that's completely. Sorry, I've gone off the screen. I was just going to show you. So that's the New Zealand cover for Differently Normal, and that's the UK cover.
Totally
actually
different.
told me at the start that supposedly New Zealanders and Australians prefer photographic covers, and the UK readers prefer illustrative. That's what they told me. So, but yeah, I've got a few, because they've been published in a few places. This is one of my favorites for Differently Normal. It's him in the water, and it's got beautiful waves. Yeah, I do love this.
That one's quite a lot different as well. Yeah.
So it's quite cool to get all the covers.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the different covers for the different countries. I've got a few questions coming through, so this is good. Kelly is wondering what you like to read yourself, and I'm wondering if there's anything you might have been reading lately that you'd like to recommend to us. So I read, I'd like to say quite widely, Kelly, but it's actually probably not. I don't really do historical or thrillers or anything like that, to be honest. I'm looking at my shelf, and it's more, I guess, what they call women's fiction.
and a little bit of literary fiction and things like that. A good one I've read, well, not good, but a great one actually that I loved last year was called Honeybee, and
Oh,
I'm pretty sure
yes,
it
yeah.
was Australian.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a great
yeah.
one, yeah.
Craig Silvey. Yeah,
Yeah.
that book was amazing, and I was
Mm,
worried going into it because I knew it dealt with some pretty sort of heavy subjects.
mm,
But he handled it really beautifully. Like it never traumatized me as a reader or anything like that. So I loved that
mm.
book. I've lent that to my mother-in-law. This one here was another favourite from last year. This is a New Zealand author called Eileen Merriman, and she's
Okay.
actually a doctor, a hematologist in Auckland, and she also churns out books. Like I don't even know how she does it, to be honest. But that one there, Silence and Snow, was a beautiful book that I read.
Okay, I haven't heard of that one before.
You haven't? Yeah, it's
Mm,
gorgeous. Yeah, it's dealing with young doctors and sort of addiction, and it's sad, but it's beautiful.
mm, mm,
Yeah, growing up, I loved a lot of Terry Pratchett, things like that.
mm.
But now I'll pretty much, yeah, I like quirky kind of stories as well. You know, the ones that they call quirky. I've just bought this one. Oh, for my next kind of read.
Oh, okay, yeah, I've heard good things about that one. I haven't read it yet, but I've heard lots of good recommendations for that one.
Yeah, so that yeah, same. So that's
Mm,
the next one I'll be
mm,
trying, but I haven't read a lot lately, to be honest. I think because just with writing and stuff, sometimes I can't really fit both in with
mm,
yeah, because
yeah.
you get to the end of the night. Well, for me, I get to the night and then the kids are in bed, and then it's either write or I'm tired. Let's have a wine
Yeah.
and watch the mindless television, and then yeah, yeah.
And Patricia's wondering about that. How do you fit in your writing with young children?
Yeah, it's hard. In Rotorua, so my husband was working a 9 to 5 office job in Rotorua, Monday to Friday, and I would write every weekend.
Mm.
He would look after the kids, and I would write on the weekends. And then we moved here 3.5 years ago, and now he only gets like a weekend off every fortnight.
Oh, well,
And so
yeah.
that made it even harder because, again, I was kind of writing them, but it's hard because that's family time as well. So that's his only 2 days off, and you want to
Mm,
fit in family time, but I also
mm.
have to fit in writing time. And so it has been really hard the last few years, I won't lie. Leo, my little one, he started going to daycare just 2 or 3 days a week, just school hours, towards the end of last year, and that's made it a little bit easier. So I actually have some hours to myself now too.
Yeah.
And then once he starts school in August, I'm guessing I'll do it, treat it
Have
like a
some more.
Monday to Friday,
Yeah.
9 to 5, yeah, 9 to 3 kind of job. So
Mm,
it should get easier, but no, it
mm,
has been a squeeze up until now to fit it with around my husband and around babies.
mm. Patricia's wondering if you choose your own titles.
Yeah, I have. I think all authors do, but they don't necessarily stick.
Mm,
The publishers can change them. But they haven't changed any of mine. No, they've kept all
okay.
of the ones I've come up with. Yeah.
And
So,
you've been published, some of them are published in a few different countries. Have they always kept the same title in each
well,
country
do it
or?
in their language. Yeah, yeah. They have kept the same titles, but just in different languages. Sorry, I'm just grabbing off my shelf.
No, that's
Um,
okay.
yeah. So, like in Germany, it was called für. Excuse me for getting this wrong, but for immer ist ein Augenblick, and it basically meant in the blink of an eye or something.
Okay.
So yeah, but they just do it in their own language really,
Mm,
and it's quite interesting, all the different covers. Those are all
yeah.
both
Certainly
photos
been
of
published in a lot of different languages.
yeah, and this is the
Mm.
US cover.
Oh, okay, that's quite different then as well.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, very sort of feminine and
mm,
whimsical. So yeah.
mm. Kelly's wondering if you do anything special to celebrate a release of a book.
I would if I didn't have kids. Well, at the moment it's school holidays, so yesterday was release day, and it's honestly it can be a bit anticlimactic sometimes because you build up to it and you're looking forward to it for so long. I've
Mm,
known for I don't know a year or something what the date that it would come out, and then my husband's at work and I've got 3 little kids, and we almost stayed home, and it was a rainy day, and then I was like, no, I don't want to stay home. I want to get out into the world. And so we went to a few bookshops, and we went for drives to see the book in a few shops and stuff like that. And I had some flowers from the publisher, and
mm.
we had a takeaway for dinner, which was a treat
Oh,
for me. So
nice.
yeah, we had pie.
Yeah.
But other than that, no. I am actually having a launch for Back to You, and that, like, it's my 9th book, but it'll be my first book launch, so I haven't had
Oh,
a
wow, okay.
proper launch yet.
Yeah.
But I thought, no, I really do want to celebrate it. So that's going to be in Rotorua on Friday night at 5:30 at the Clouds Booksellers. So I am nervous about that, but also really excited. So yeah, yeah, that's going to be a bit of a celebration for me this time.
Yeah. No, well, that's great after so many, if you haven't done one before, to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Lorraine's wondering if you use any life experiences at all in your book.
Hi, Lorraine. I think I know who that is. Yes, no, I do. So she's probably talking about Differently Normal, which the character B, who is autistic, is based on Lorraine's daughter, Rachel. So,
Okay.
Lorraine, so when I published Charlie and Pearl, my first book, it was a very Kiwi book. So there's a lot of Kiwiisms in there. And Lorraine messaged me from the UK and said how much she'd loved it. And so we're talking about 10 years nearly now, probably 8, 9 years. And now we're still friends and we message every day, morning and night. So I made this amazing friend. And yeah, her daughter Rachel is 31 now and she has autism and epilepsy and cerebral palsy. So I did base a character in that book on Rachel.
Okay.
But no, nothing in the rest of the books is really based on me or my life. Oh, a character might have a miscarriage and I'll draw on my own experiences for that, but it's not put in there deliberately or anything. No.
And what about reviews? Do you read your reviews?
I do. I shouldn't, but I do. So far, touch wood, touch wood, touch wood. They've been pretty good. You always get the odd stinker. But, no, I do. I go on Goodreads and I go on Amazon and I look at them. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. And how do you feel when you get a bad one?
Sad. Obviously, it can be horrible because you can get, and you might get 4 good ones that day, and then one bad one, and you forget the good one, but you just focus on that one bad one, and then it takes a while to sort of realize that your writing isn't going to be for everyone, and your books aren't going to be for everyone, and I don't take it as personally now as I used to, probably. So I just sort of realized, now it obviously wasn't for them. It's not anything about me, so I try to brush it off. But yeah.
Yeah. And for you, could you tell us what you think makes a good story?
Ooh. Yeah. Well, I just like these really character-driven novels, So for me, it's the characters. I actually read a book called Benny and Shrimp before I wrote my first one, a few years before that, and that was the first book I'd read where I sort of realized that everyday life can be interesting. Nothing amazing has to happen. Like it didn't have to be, nothing incredible had to happen for a book to be quite compelling and really beautiful. That was for me, that was quite a turning point to realize that, you can have books about everyday people and everyday things, and it can be interesting to read, but no, I love sort of complex characters and a little bit quirky characters, and always a bit of love stories. I like love. I'm a sucker for romance, and yeah.
And because of all the emotions in your books, I'm thinking that probably you have a lot of readers who are really, really touched by your books. Do you have a lot reaching out and telling you their own experiences and how that's...
Yeah, especially after Photos of You.
Yeah.
When that came out, I think in the US, and it was right around sort of lockdown last year in the US, at the start of last year. And I had all these, I've had amazing messages from people about Photos of You and how it's made them reprioritize their own lives and look at what they're focusing on and what's important and what's not. Like I had this woman say she hadn't seen her family for a little while, so they were going to have she'd organized a cookout, even though it was winter, it was cold. They were going to have an outside cookout, and all the family was coming, and she was really excited, and she's like, no, we need to just get together and see each other. And and so no, I've had a lot of messages, especially since that one, and also with Differently Normal. Quite a few people, I've had some autistic people on the spectrum, or people, a little bit different, have reached out to me as well to say how needed us to sort of see that represented in books. A lovely one on Instagram the other day reached out, a young, very young 16-year-old, and that was really neat. But
yeah, that's good. And do you find you have time to respond to everyone who sends you messages? You do, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
They've taken the time to reach out to me, and it means a lot. It does.
Yeah,
So,
that's and
and
for a
even,
reader, that's really great to hear as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
and you know, you get the people reaching out asking you about writing and any advice, and I try to always respond to that stuff.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah, that's great. Lorraine is wondering if you like making your readers cry.
Yep. That sounds horrible and sadistic, but yep, I do. I think I don't know if this is a spoiler, but my latest book is the first one I think where nobody died.
Okay.
That kind of tells you something. I usually kill someone off, so yeah.
Mm,
No, I do like to have emotion in there. I also like to sort of reflect real life, and I think that was because of Mum and Catherine. You know, the unfairness of someone 38 with a young child getting cancer and dying, and then
mm,
my mum dying just after she became a nanny,
mm,
and all those things. So I do try and is not always tied up in these neat little bows or happy endings, although I do have some happy endings, but
mm.
it's not always a given with my books. Yeah, sometimes life isn't like that.
Yeah, exactly. And do you do much research for your books?
Yeah, it depends what it's about. So with Photos of You, I read a couple of sort of books about the you know, some people with breast cancer or cancer and
Mm,
how their experiences have been. And obviously with Differently Normal with Lorraine, she helped me out with that character with the autism because I don't have a lot of experience with that myself. But and back to you. Sorry, I don't want to say what the injury is, but I did have to do a research for that as well.
mm,
Um, so yeah, no, I do.
mm. And do you find when you're doing your research that, like, what's the most surprising thing that you've found when you've been doing the research?
This is going to sound really silly, but it's actually, well, I can't remember for previous books, to be honest.
Mm,
But the book I'm researching now, I've been researching about trees. The main character,
okay.
Harriet, is a dendrochronologist. So someone who works out how old trees are by
Oh,
their
okay.
rings. Yeah,
Okay.
and so I've been doing a lot of research on trees, and there's this neat book called The Hidden Life of Trees. I'm not sure if
Mm,
you've heard of it. It's a beautiful book and all about trees. And I had no idea trees were so amazing. Honestly, these things are just incredible in the life they sustain, not just themselves, but all around them and in forests and everything. But I learned about woodpeckers and how they make their nests in the trees,
okay.
and yeah, they pick a little bit, and then they actually go away for a couple of months and let the fungi
Oh,
wash all that
okay.
out, and then they come back and scoop it
Mm,
all out, and just things like that. It was like I
mm.
had no idea. So no, I'm quite fascinated with trees at the moment.
Yeah. Just reminding people if you've got any more questions before we finish off, please type them in comments. And while we wait to see if there's any more questions, can you tell people how they can keep in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook at Tammy Robinson Author, and also on Instagram, Tammy Robinson Author. On Twitter, I'm Tammy Robinson 76 because I joined that before I was published and I didn't really know what I was consistently trying to brand. So, yeah, Tammy Robinson 76. But yeah, I'm on all social media, and so yeah, happy to hear from people and yep, things like
Yeah.
that.
So thanks so much. It's been great chatting to you and really looking forward to seeing your movie out. I know that will be really, really exciting and looking
Thank you.
forward to reading more of your books because Photos of You was the first one of yours that I've read.
Thank you. Yes.
So,
Thank
and
you.
thanks everyone else who's joined in and asked questions.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.